Great to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm going to jump right in. I know we want to have time at the end for questions. I'm with Eastern Carolina Organics. We're based out of Durham, North Carolina. Our company really just started with this very simple idea back in 2004. And the question really was, were people going to put their money where their mouth was? The desire to support local and organic farmers. And I always like to say, were they really going to give us purchase orders every week, twice a week, or were they going to just show up around Earth Day for us to make them feel good about themselves? So the idea was really to launch a company, develop some good distribution infrastructure so that we could grow more organic farmers in the area, feed the demand for local and organic rather than people thinking they had to choose one or the other, local or organic. So the idea was really, can we establish a program where farmers are going to work with us to develop year-round availability, and where customers going to want to really support those farmers and get behind them on a daily basis. We are a farmer-owned company. I'm a partner with 17 organic farmers right now, and that changes almost every year. But we work with a lot more farmers than are just owners. So the idea is that ownership is a carrot rather than a stick approach, and it's legally an LLC. The concept was really to figure out how we can help support customers in achieving their mission of putting this product on their shelf or in their restaurant without having to go through all the aggregation work themselves. We were very committed from 2004. We got a $48,000 grant was our original seed money. And we were really committed to making sure that this was a self-sustaining company that could operate on its own 2 feet for the long term. I know farmers have been overpromised and underdelivered to death, and so the idea was, how do we make sure that we show up for them and we help the consuming public and the wholesale buyers who need to be there for their consuming public show up for farmers as well. So ECO is essentially a wholesale marketing and distribution service. We have an unconventional footprint in the sense that we just have a few trucks of our own that operate within our region, but we put a lot of product on other trucks that ship up and down the East Coast from really Montreal all the way down to Florida. And our focus is absolutely on certified organic product, although it's not 100% certified organic. We do a lot of business and production planning with farmers. That is absolutely key to our ability to be good partners with them. And we work off of an 80-20 split. 80% of everything we sell goes right back to the farmer. We live off of a 20% margin. Over since the last 14 years, we've paid over $25 million back out to farmers. So collectively, we are an economic engine here, and there's a lot. It's kind of incumbent upon us to make sure we spread the good practices and remind people of the dangerous practices of making sure this model can be replicated elsewhere. This is a quick look at us. There's a lot of branding, obviously, that goes into making sure that people know what they're supporting. And the concept of partnership was really fun for me to think through in getting ready for this workshop, just because it is everything. We couldn't be anything of what we are if it wasn't for having farmers as actual owners in the company. So we absolutely considered a co-op. There's a lot of great nonprofit models out there. We went with a farmer-owned LLC that had management as partners in with them. Really, that came from the farmers, and listening to your constituents is really key. We consider farmers to be kind of a second tier of customers for us, so making sure that we were developing something that was really going to serve them and that they were a part of the process from day one was really important to us. Some of the things that we really had to work out was getting through the entry and exit process. What does it look like for a farmer to be able to come into the program, and what does it look like when they're ready to retire or exit out of the ownership model? And there's a lot of benefits that come along with being an owner. Farmers participate in a profit sharing program at the end of each year, but that's based on patronage. So again, carrot rather than a stick. How much product did you put through this system that year? If your CSA is going really well and you're doing a little less wholesaling, there's no punishment or penalty. You're just going to get less of a profit distribution. And then from ECO's perspective, it's really important to us that we're always attracting a new pipeline of farmers every year. And so that's something that has been a little bit more challenging in the more recent years as we've gotten bigger than it was in the beginning. All of our owners were very understanding of the idea of growing new owners, but as the pie gets a little bit bigger and the farmers are getting maybe closer to retirement, we're having to remind them a little bit more about the importance of sustainability and bringing in newer and younger farmers into that ownership model. Here's a quick snapshot. I love that all three of us had a little photo of like some of the gathering meetings, but this is what partnership all comes down to, is FaceTime. getting to just chat, really, about fertility in the soil and other things like that, not just the big picture of trying to change the world. And I like to share this story because this is one of our new owners in 2018, actually. Randall Watkins tells the story about how his Diddy, he calls him. Diddy wanted him to go to school, go to NC State University, get a degree in ag engineering and do some kind of ag mechanical work. And he said, Randall, I'll buy you a truck. If you go to school and you get your degree and you come out and you give a good job. And Randall, I think he took the weekend or something like that. This was a few years ago. And he said, Daddy, keep the truck. Farming's in my blood. You can't stop me from farming. So for us, thinking through that pipeline of new farmers and making sure that we, as the collective we, if we want to be alternative food systems experts or supply chain experts, it's really critical that we think of not just the product and the logistics, but really the farmers themselves. So here's a picture of Randall Jr. and Randall Sr. And it's really important for us to know that these are the kind of farms that we're able to be there for. We didn't know him when he made that proclamation to his dad. So here's a picture from Riverstone Organics in Virginia that we work with. Another important piece of being a good partner to farmers is giving them a voice to their own vision. And in this case, it wasn't about product and necessarily about farming. The owner, Woody, said, Sandi, the original idea when we started 7 years ago was not just to grow organic produce, but to grow organic farmers. And so making sure that we're there for them to help support him attracting that next generation onto his land and take advantage of that organic matter and the other infrastructure that they've been developing all these years, and being there for that next generation to farm is critical. They're the second farm that's a new owner in our company this year. Another piece of critical partnership for us has been the people who give us money. We all know that that's really important, and for us it was incredibly rewarding that we didn't have to compromise on some of our social and environmental values to get the best financial option when we decided it was time to buy a building. So we put together a three-way party of lenders, and that network has been really important for us to be able to go to and speak about the real truths of the up and down agricultural cycles and business cycles that we go through. So obviously, I think farmers know this well, but having a really good relationship with your banker as your partner has been critical for us. We have a lot of tenants in our building. We bought a building that was bigger than what we needed originally because it's very expensive to break down coolers and move them, and it's frankly impossible to predict growth. I think it's good for us to admit what we are bad at, and this industry of the local food hub movement, I think we're pretty bad at predicting growth. Until maybe we fund more people to figure out how to model the growth for us. So these are all tenants, and it's been really important for us to be able to grow up ourselves as a company and host space for other smaller, maybe less mature companies. We're certainly not an incubator, but we give there's shared access to dock space. We do forklift certification with them, and they can utilize all of our equipment. So it's been really fun for us to talk about not just rural workforce development on our farms, but also urban workforce development in our warehouse, and think through what it's like for like-minded and values and community-based entities to be able to live together and talk over the water fountain. Another important piece of partnership for us have been third-party certification bodies. We are Primus GFS food safety certified and organically certified through QCS out of Florida, but the ones I wanted to highlight because they're a little bit more exciting are a living wage project that operates out of our county, and also the national B Corp certification, or really global B Corp certification. It's really, really important when you're trying to adhere to values to be able to have these outside agencies. Not because we need to be held to that standard, but it's really helpful to be able to get a grade and know that we're always working on a spectrum towards a higher means to achieve that vision and those values. It's really important for me to be able to personally communicate to the farmers who are owners in the company why B Corp matters in terms of social and environmental values. They understand organic certification, but it's really fun to be able to be challenged in that regard. not every county has their own living wage certification system. And so obviously none of us could do any of this alone. And I think it's really important to go back and think about the infrastructure that's in your immediate region and what kind of like-minded entities you can partner with to be able to validate what you're going for and also be part of the movement that they're trying to create in your area. Another very important part of partnership for us have been customers, obviously. Customers enable everything that we do, and really why we stand out for them and why they're so important for us is because they value a face-based food chain. They know how important that is. I really appreciated what Dan was saying about showing up at a conference and eating soulless food. And it's really important that we are constantly imbuing soul and what matters in the bigger picture into every interaction. And that's hard to do when you're chasing a purchase order at 6 in the morning on a Monday, but it's obviously available to us through farm tours and things like that. The best customers understand and want to learn more about just how hard farmers really work. And so that's something that we didn't necessarily know was one of our marketing edges in the beginning, but it's absolutely been a really important key to be able to sustain partnerships, is being able to really preach to our customers exactly what the challenges are that farmers face and being able to bring them out to the farm and not just talk about what's going really well, but talk about what's most challenging. Our team is the best and most fun part of our partnership model. We have to be competitive. We have to kind of look, smell, and feel like a normal produce company. But everything on the inside of the truck has to be filled with all of our values, or else I wouldn't be waking up every morning to do the hard work that I do, and I don't think any of them would either. So figuring out how to be competitive, how to be efficient, all of these things that are not that exciting, but at the same time, every day making sure that they know that they're part of a revolutionary system and that they're chasing a better future for their kids, and that they might not have known what compost was when they first started on the job, but everybody's entitled to be a part of an environmental movement. Everybody's entitled to be a part of a fresh food movement. So they might show up for a good living wage, but when they're in our system for a few weeks, they're going to know that there's a lot more behind punching in and punching out. That's absolutely key, and I don't think any of us would be doing what we're doing if it wasn't part of that partnership model. Does anyone know what that is on the left? Not a collard. It's a broccoli leaf, and I think that it highlights a really important part of partnership for us, has been learning what assets our farms have that they don't realize and helping to market it for them. Broccoli leaves are pretty darn tasty, but no one knows how to make room for them on a grocery shelf, and chefs can only use so many of them. But fighting for being able to take advantage of this asset, creating a whole new product stream for them, has been a really rewarding part of our job, and again, really tells the story of exactly why we're doing what we do. The other piece that I wanted this slide to make sure to remind me to talk about is how partnership for us really is like a marriage, and Ray on the right looks pretty chill, but he's definitely the most aggressive and difficult farmer to deal with when it comes down to food safety and a lot of issues that we're trying to help herd all of our farmers towards. And it's really rewarding to be business partners. Our social security numbers are married to each other, and so when he's frustrated, he's going to give it to me, and I'm going to have to be bold and give it back to him in a friendly and professional way, but nonetheless, being able to not slam the phone and never talk again is key. And so for us, I wouldn't do it any other way. Having that ownership model in place reminds us every day to come back to the core values from the beginning, and that we're always moving towards that same vision in the end, not trying to stray from it one bit, not trying to give up on any one farmer. At the same time, farmer wellness is something that should be at the forefront of all of our minds, whatever role you're coming from, whatever state you're coming from, whoever paid for your trip to get out here. If we're thinking about farm systems and systems thinking and food supply chain, and we're forgetting to think about the well-being of farmers, not just farms, then we are missing an entire point. And so making sure that we're learning from the farmers how to help support them in achieving food safety certification, not just punching signing on the dotted line, but really kind of trying to embrace and figure out how they can adapt some of these models on their farm. That's the most important thing we can do to modify their stress and really be there for them. So I know that that's bits and pieces of what you all probably do on a daily basis, but knowing that we're doing it because we actually need to make sure that farmers are going to want to encourage their next generation to come back to the farm rather than give up is very key. We do a lot of market-based production advocacy. So what this means is it took us about 12 years to have organic sweet corn in quantity and very high quality. And it doesn't mean we want a farmer to go down a road of planting anything that's going to be a sure failure. Obviously, that's not what we're in this for. But it does mean that we want to work with them to figure out how to move the needle on a yearly basis towards making this something that is viable, marketable, profitable, and shippable. So we've come a long way, but this is always the conversation that we want to be asking of our customer base and the marketplace, and then taking back to the farmers, because that's what we are. You say farm to table, we're just the two in the middle, and it's our privilege to be that bridge in the middle. But our farmers need to know what the marketplace is looking for, and being able to tell us exactly how we can support them in doing that is pretty important. On the other side, farmer-based marketplace advocacy is critical. These are all awesome winter squash, thank you, I'll join the fan club. But customers have no idea what to do with any of these varieties. Of course, they're all like 27 pounds, so there's no box that it fits into. It's hard to palletize the thing and put it on a truck. And we want to make sure that the farm is getting paid for every ounce, because you can't just, every cabbage is shipped in 45-pound boxes, collards are shipped in 24 bunches, things like that. You cannot do that with this squash. And so figuring out how we can be moldable to what is coming off of the farm, and how we can support farmers actually being able to make a living from growing seed that is obscure but delicious, and creating a market for them is also really critical. This slide is making sure that I remember to talk about some of the challenges. I give a lot of workshops talking about why not to build a food hub, and I'm very happy to talk with anyone about that in the downtime afterwards. But it's really important that we remember that at the end of the day, this is a business model, no matter what your formation papers say, even if you're a nonprofit, and that you can have the fanciest equipment or the most demanding customers or the most high-paying customers, and in reality, if you don't have the great farmers behind it and the financial backing and the kind of entrepreneurial gumption, then you're still going to have a hard time. And it's challenging for all of us if one food hub goes down, because there's farmers that are lost in that mix, and there's customers, and there's extension agents, and all these people who showed up to support that entity. So it's a big risk for all of us. Finances are always challenging. We have a seasonal business based on perishability, and we are not trying to source stuff out of Florida or California or Mexico or go for the cheapest product. Infrastructure is challenging. We cannot afford the technology programs that the other companies have. And transitions are key. We don't have farmers to necessarily take over on every farm that has been building organic matter and has all the technology and equipment needed to be able to have a great farm long into the future. However, in order to build these healthy partnerships, there's a lot that can be achieved, and very simply put, healthy operations and logistics are key, and so are healthy plants with healthy yields, and healthy soil, obviously, with solid organic matter, and really happy, healthy farmers. So that's kind of what it always comes back to. That is all. I think we're good for questions now.